Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our today's session. A warm welcome to everyone for taking out the time from your busy schedule and joining us for our next session in our certification, Cloud Practitioner Certification Bootcamp. AWS User Group Madurai welcomes you all. Before I hand over to today's speaker about the today's session, let me walk you through with a couple of stuffs. For the guys who are still not part of our community, I would please request you join our user group Madurai Slack workspace. The link is given below it's flashing on the screen. Next, before we start the session, let me remind a couple of housekeeping stuff. As this is a virtual event, let me remind a couple of stuff. Be aware of each other. The comments, the kinds of inputs or perspective each one have. Be welcoming and respectful with other audience. Friendly and patience. Be understanding of difference, kind and considerate to each other, and again please open to ask all sorts of questions and viewpoint. Any sorts of questions you have, any queries, please feel free to put it on the chat. Our speaker is very delighted and she'll be happy to answer all of your questions, so please don't hesitate. Put all the questions you have in the chat. So as we all know, this is a fourth session what we have, where AWS Madurai user group has presented the boot camp, the practitioner boot camp. The whole idea, the whole ideology of behind this boot camp is for the beginners friendly, the people who have just started their cloud journey and looking for the certification. It's for beginners friendly. It will be backed by practice tests, different quiz, which will keep it more competitive. We have different giveaways, certificate of attendees, like all the guys who are going through all the different sessions what we have lined up. If you attend all those stuff, we'll have a certification of attendees, as well as we have hands-on task along with quiz and doubt solving session, which will help you to prepare yourself for the AWS Cloud Practitioner certification. And this is an AWS community lead initiative, and every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. we have this different events and talks organized by the folks who have just cleared their certification and very new and looking forward to share their knowledge. Again, if you haven't registered for this bootcamp, please register it today. The link is here. I'll again at the end of this introduction, I'll post all of our registration link in the chat of this video. So please do go forward to it, register to Madurai Slack workshop as well as to this bootcamp. So let me go ahead and introduce about today's speaker. So today's speaker, you already know her pretty well. She's the co-organizer of AWS User Group Madurai. Neetu, she's a manager and works at Citi. Today's session will be part 2 of compute services. She already had a wonderful session early last week talking about the part 1, and she'll continue her second edition of compute services, which will be focusing on EC2 image builder, load balancer, and auto scaling. So let me go ahead and invite her to the stage. Hello, Neetu. Good evening. How are you doing today?
Hi, Sanchit. I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for being our wonderful speaker today for today's session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like
Thank
to
you for your kind words.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to go ahead and share your screen?
Sure. Let me just, I'll just revise a bit on the last portion that we went on last time, right? So, okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the part 2 of the third episode of the bootcamp. So, last time we were able to complete certain part of the topics that I had in mind, and we were left with the image builder, ELB, and ASD. So today we'll complete that, but before that, let's just brush up on what we had done last time. So first of all, we had learned what EC2 is, what is infrastructure as a service. We are renting virtual machines in the cloud, okay, and what kind of machines there are, different like Linux or Mac OS or Windows. Those are few that I had named, but there are more, Ubuntu and all that. So you have a lot of options. Then we had learned what all kind of we can even rent the RAM, like network devices wherein we can store data. Then there were a lot of options that were available. We could write user scripts which could package the entire software that we had to get installed on the EC2 instance at boot time. Then we had learned on what all purchasing options are available. what all kinds of instance types are available. Like we had general purpose, we had storage optimized, we had memory optimized, which had different use cases about them. So we had looked through that. Then we had kind of purchase options, that is on demand, reserved. Then in reserved, we had convertible, scheduled. Then we had spot instances. We had EC2 dedicated hosts, EC2 dedicated instances. So we had seen all of that. Then we had gone to learn about the storage, what kind of EC2 instance storage was available. Like we had learned about EBS volumes or elastic block store. So we had learned that there were like block storages available, like EBS. Then we had file storages available. Okay, that is basically EFS. And I mean, we could EBS is something which would be kind of a network drive. So it is basically like a network USB stick. So you can just plug it at one place and then in one instance, and then remove it and plug it in another. But then you had to always remember that the root volume was by default ticked for. It was selected for delete on termination, and we could kind of override that as well. So that's one thing. Then we had learned about EC2 Instance Store, which is an ephemeral storage, which means that once you stop the instance, okay, once or you terminate the instance, that storage is lost forever. So that was one thing. And then we had learned about EFS, which is basically a shared file system. Okay, so we had multiple across like multiple availability zones and regions, we could access a single EFS system. It was costly, but still it helped like across on premises and AWS, we could access it. Then we also went through the shared responsibility model for like EC2 and the storage devices. Okay, like what was our responsibility as a user and what was AWS's responsibility. So infrastructure, networking, all of that. I mean, taking care of their infrastructure, taking care of the fact that their employees should not be able to access our data. That was EC2 and that was AWS's responsibility. While for us, it was that we should be taking care of the firewall rules. Like we had said that EC2 has a firewall across it, which we have to set up. That is the security group, right? So that setting up of that firewall, then taking care of the data and ensuring that our data is secure, data encryption, all of that was our responsibility. Then EC2, because that entire instance is given to us, then we have to ensure that the software patches, patches, the software updates, and ensuring that our system is up to date is our responsibility because it's already been given to us. And firmware and everything would be taken care of by AWS. So these are some points that we already had gone through. I just wanted to brush up before kind of we stepped into the next section. So let me share my screen. Because we had already started the image builder and we were not able to complete, we could not see the entire cycle. So that's why I've already started the image builder. I'll just share my screen for a second. Okay. Okay, all right. So yeah, let me see. Okay, as we had seen last time as well, this build instance is running. So we have a build instance, we'll have a test instance. Build is to basically build your AMI. And let me go back to the slide just a second. Just to so as we had seen, the EC2 image builder will first create a builder EC2 instance, okay, and using our what all software we have given, it will build those components. We had given Java, and we had Corretto, and we had said that we have to update the CLI to version 2. So that would be done. It will create a new AMI once this builder instance is completed, and then it will be tested. Okay, whether the AMI is fine, or whether it is secure or not, all these things would be done. And then finally, it would be distributed. So let that happen. Meanwhile, let's just proceed with the session. And I had a few things that I think I wanted to cover in the last session as well, and I could not. So let me do that as well. Okay, fine. So just one thing that I wanted to show you guys in the hands-on was, we already had set up a bootcamp security group. So let's add that. Just wanted to show you guys some things which I had not completed last time. So let me go through and launch it. Okay. Okay, so while that is happening, let's go through the theory of what is scaling, what is availability, and what is elasticity. Okay, so there are two concepts, that's vertical scalability and horizontal scalability. What does that mean basically? So vertical scalability means that, say you have, let's take the example of a call center. Okay, we have a junior operator, okay, who's been getting a lot of calls, and you feel that, I mean, as a person who is leading that call center, you feel that this guy is being overburdened. So let's take someone more experienced, okay, a higher, like a senior operator, who can take these calls rather than, I mean, rather than this guy doing it. Let's give it to a senior operator so that he can handle that. Okay, so this is basically vertical scaling. So you are going from a junior to a senior operator. Now, how this works in the cloud is basically you go from, say, a smaller instance to a larger instance, like the example given here, T2 micro to T2 large, okay, T2x large. So you think that your because say your data, you are holding a database on the EC2 instance, okay, you have a database and you're thinking the database keeps growing. So let's move it to a different instance, okay, a larger instance, so that it can handle data. So that's vertical scalability. That is scaling up. Okay, you are moving from a smaller to a larger instance. Now there is something called horizontal scalability. Because say you do not have, the call center does not have the funds to kind of bring in a senior operator, what you do is you set up, say, 5 operators, junior operators. Okay, so what happens, the work gets distributed among them. Okay, this is like scaling in or scaling out. Okay, that's what called scaling out. That is, you are adding people which of the same type. Okay, so you're adding junior operators, so you are trying to balance the load among all those people. Okay, so that's how the distributed systems or modern web applications work. Okay, how is AWS achieving this, or EC2 using EC2 instances, basically using your load balancer and auto scaling group. So we'll see that how load balancer balances the load, and how auto scaling groups helps you to scale in and scale out. That is, increase the number of instances or decrease it based on the demand. Okay, now what is high availability? Okay, so it's basically being available in lot, as we had seen, right? That is one region. Okay, and now for me, I am like I said here, I am in the Mumbai region. Okay, so in Mumbai region, I am, there are 3 AZs, okay, availability zones. So when you say highly available, that means that your uh, instance is available. Say if one say you let's take the example of call centers in New York and San Francisco. Okay, there are two. See, there are 2 branches. Okay, Now, if you have multiple junior operators in NY and in San Francisco, but say in case that in NY there is a power outage, so the entire facility goes down. So still you'll have the San Francisco guys to fall back on, So the entire load of calls goes to San Francisco. It doesn't happen that if New York is down, the entire call center is down. That won't happen. So that's what is meant by high availability. That means that your instance would always be available, even if there is an outage in one availability zone uh, due to maybe any kind of natural calamities or say power outage, anything. Okay, so that's why you have to keep your application running in 2 or more AZs. So high availability and your horizontal scaling, they both go hand in hand, because you will basically the load balancer and the available ASDs, that the scaling groups, they work across availability zones. So so that's how it's your instances are always available. So say you have an application which multiple users are trying to access, okay, and if one zone is down or one instance is down, even then your users will keep getting output, or they'll be able to see the web application irrespective of whether there's a failure or not. So that's how you make your system fault tolerant. Okay, now let's go to the next. Okay, so what is scalability? Scalability is basically it's the ability to kind of balance the load, okay, or accommodate a load increase or decrease in load. Okay, so either you are kind of scaling horizontally or scaling vertical. That's either you're increasing the size of that instance or you're increasing the number of instances. That's what scalability means. What is elasticity? Okay, so elasticity means that your system is able to handle the load. That is based on the demand or based on the number of users trying to access your system, you're either able to increase or decrease the load. That's how you make, you just kind of visualize a rubber band, right? You increase, you decrease. It's flexible. So that's how it works. EC2 also works. So EC2 with your load balancer and ASD works. You can increase and decrease the load. And what is agility? Agility is, I mean, you'll see these concepts being used in the CCP exam very frequently, and it would be confusing if you are not, well aware of these concepts. So, what is agility? Agility is nothing to do with scalability and availability. It's basically the ability in cloud that we can easily spin up resources. Okay, like we just did now, right? I just spun up one EC2 instance of T2 micro just so quickly with the particular storage, right? So that's what is agility. Agility is kind of, it's how agile you are, how agile the cloud is, how agile AWS is, that you're quickly able to spin up resources. So just keep in mind what these concepts are, because you'll always be asked like how do you scale, or how will you make your system available, highly available, or how you will, is this an example, they'll give an example and say, is it an example of horizontal scaling or vertical scaling, and things like that. So you have to understand these concepts. Let's go to the next slide. I think it's in load balancer. Okay, before I go here, okay, let me just show you some things. Okay, so here we have I had shown you that we could access the instance either from our local machine, okay, using SSH keys, or we could access it from here, from the EC2 instance connect, right? So let's just go here. Okay, so we are connected. But remember that this is basically a CLI, a web-based CLI, okay? Even this requires your security group to have an SSH rule present. Now let's do one thing. Let's just go back and check what security group is present here. Okay. Okay.
Sure.
This is the security group. Let's go to the security group and see. We have these inbound rules, right? So let's edit this inbound rules. Let's say remove the SSH one. Okay, let's just remove it. Save rules. Okay. Now let's go back here. Let's close this. And let's I think all right. If you see for the image builder wise, I think now the image builder, yeah, we have entered the testing phase. Okay, so the EC2 instance is now the test components are being run on the AMI. So if you see the builder instance has terminated, this was started by my EC2 image builder, and now the test instance is running. Okay, so let's wait. I'll show you like the final AMI that's created out of the image builder. Okay, now let's go connect again. Okay, connect. Yeah, see this. See that even though it's a web-based CLI, it's not able to access your EC2 instance. Why? Because you have removed the SSH. Same would happen if you try to if you remove the SSH rule, inbound rule from your security group and try accessing from your local system. Okay, so what I want to basically insist on is that when you're setting up your security group, be very careful of adding the SSH, because otherwise without that you won't, without having that inbound rule, no one outside will be able to access your application, your EC2 instance. Okay, so let's go back and add it to the security group. I had removed it, so I just wanted to emphasize on that. You guys are aware of it. Okay, SSH from anywhere and save it. Yeah, so we have it back. Okay, now let's connect it back. It might take some time to reflect, so just okay, it's done. All right, so once I added it back, you can see that we are able to log in again. Okay, now one more thing that I wanted to show you guys was that just a second. Okay, see, when you're trying to access your IAM, say you're trying to access IAM through your EC2 instance, okay, and you're trying to list the users which are available in your IAM, what you have configured in your IAM, you are not able to. It says that you can configure credentials by running AWS config. Let's see what happens when we run AWS configure. Okay. We are asked for the access key, we are asked for secret access key, default region name, and default output. But it's very highly recommended not to use this way to actually access your IAM from your EC2 instance. Okay, for doing this, because if you do this, okay, anyone who has access to this instance will be able to retrieve your access keys and make use of them. So it should not be done. What you can do otherwise is you can go to the IAM console. Let me check. Yeah. I am able here. Okay, so let me check this demo role for EC2. Okay, this is something I've created. You will have to create a role this way, which will have IAM read-only access. So what you do is this, as we had learned earlier in the IAM session, if one service wants to access another service, IAM and EC2, both are services. If EC2 wants to access IAM, you will have to give EC2 a specific role so that it's able to access. Okay, so always remember that you can apply such an IAM role, okay, wherein you'll have IAM read-only access. You go to EC2 instance. I have instances running here. Just a second. It's taking quite some time. Okay. You didn't want this. Okay. Yeah. So here in security, you can see that there is no IAM role available. Okay. So what you do basically is go here in security, you modify the IAM role. Okay. You come here, you say demo role for EC2, you save it. Save it, close that existing this, and now now go and connect to EC2 instance connect from here. Okay. See now I'm able to access this. Why? Because I have given a role to my IAM, EC2 instance, wherein it can access the IAM system. So this is how you have to make one service talk to another, not by configuring any way through SSH keys or something. Basically, you have to use roles whenever you're trying to communicate between two services. Okay, this is something that I wanted to show you guys. Now I think that's done. All right, so let's go to the image builder and check what has happened to the AMI. Okay, so the AMI is available. Let's go to the AMI section. See, so this is the AMI that's available post our run of the EC2 image builder. Okay, so we have an AMI available here. Let's launch an instance from this image. Okay, same VPC. Let's add, Command C. Next, add my storage. That's done. Add some tags. Bootcamp EC2 instance. Next, the security group. I believe we'll use the same. We can have the same as these kind of working with two different EC2 instances. So let's do this. Okay, that's fine. It's open to the world. That's all right. Launch. Okay, acknowledge. Now I'll be using these two. So see, through image builder, you could automate the creation of AMIs, which then can be used to run to actually create instances. So that's how easy it is. You already have an AMI. You already are building a pipeline to automate the process of creating an image, wherein you're already packaging all the software components that you need in your EC2 instance, and then you're directly creating an instance out of that. So it makes it so much easy and so much quicker. So okay, so we have two, and this test and build instances from the EC2 image builder have stopped. Now let's go to our load balancer section, and we'll use these two instances then to demo how the load balancer would work. All right. So what is a load balancer? Okay, load balancers are basically servers that are used to your user will be able. It's like it will be at the forefront, and the EC2 instances that you're using would be behind this load balancer. So whenever a request come, they'll first come to the load balancer. Load balancer will decide which EC2 instance it has to go to. Okay, and it will also keep a check on whether your EC2 instances are healthy or not, or maybe say they are down, or they have stopped, they have terminated. Then it will always ensure that even if that one, see, you have 3 instances, and out of the 3, one has stopped, there are 2 instances now. So it will ensure that your user will always have, unterminated, or uninterrupted access to your application. So the request will go to the healthy EC2 instances. That's how the ELB works. So it's a managed load balancer. So you don't have to manage the ELB. You do have, you can create your own ELBs, but then it will require a lot of configuration and management on your end. So it's usually preferred to use the AWS managed load balancer. So AWS takes care of everything from from its working, maintenance, upgradation, everything, and also to ensure that it's highly available, because it can it can work across your availability zones. Okay, there are 4 types of load balancers. One is the classic load balancer, which is already deprecated. Okay, it's not for, it's not used in CCP also. Okay, it's used for if you're already familiar with the protocols that are existing. So layer 4 and layer 7, it works on that, but it's been removed from CCP, and it's also not being used currently. So it is kind of obsolete. Okay, it's deprecated. Then we have application load balancer, which works with HTTP and HTTPS traffic. So layer 7, it works at layer 7, and network load balancer, which works at layer 4. That is, it basically works at the TCP level. Okay, and it gives a very high performance and sub-millisecond latencies it works on. So what are the advantages? We have some advantages. Let's see before that, right? Let's see the diagram on the right hand side. So basically, your user, as I was saying, talks to the load balancer. Load balancer, and he is not. The user is not aware as to how many instances are working in the background. So the request comes to the load balancer, and load balancer will talk to the EC2 instances. So it's like you that way you keep your EC2 instances safe. It's not exposed to the user. It's basically you have a DNS URL wherein you'll access the instances, and you'll never have access to the basically the EC2 instances per se. Okay, so you can spread load across all the downstream instances. Then you can handle, as I said, it makes sure that your requests only reach the kind of healthy instances, and unhealthy instances are not actually sent any request to. It will also provide SSL termination for your websites, and also make it highly available. That is, it will talk across it will balance the load across your availability zones. Okay, so before we go to auto scaling groups, let's create a load balancer using these 2 instances that we have. So let's go to load balancers. All right, create a load balancer. Okay, before I go, in the theory part, anyone has any questions till now? Sanjit, any questions that have come up?
Sure, let me just check here. Yeah, I don't see any questions so far. Guys, please post
Okay,
the
cool.
questions if you have any.
Guys, if you have any questions, please post. Okay, if yeah, I'll be all happy to answer. Okay, so I had said that there were 4 types of load balancers. There is an application load balancer, a network load balancer, and a gateway load balancer. Gateway load balancer is quite advanced. You guys don't have to worry about this for CCP. As we said, application load balancer, if you see, it's depicted using a very nice diagram here. So your user talks to, using HTTP or HTTPS, will talk to either Lambda functions, or say EC2 instances, or say container instances, or any of it. So, and in network load balancer, it will handle the TCP or UDP or TLS, all these protocols. And see, classic load balancer, as I said, it's previous generation, so not used, and you guys don't have to worry about it as well. So let's create a ALB, application load balancer. Let's name it as Bootcamp ALB. Internet facing IPv4. It's okay. Your VPC is my default VPC, and I'll give all 3 availability zones so that it's available across my all the zones, all the availability zones. What will I take? Okay. Or I could use the same Bootcamp SG, right? Target group. See, target group is basically how you'll mention. I mean, what instances it has to listen to and where it has to route. So that's how you have to create a target group and assign it here so that it knows that it has to listen, it has to send the incoming request to these instances. So you go to target group, you can either send it to instances, you can send it to IP address. ALB, let's name this as Bootcamp target group. Page 1. We don't change anything in this. Basically, the healthy threshold, like how many checks it has to do before it ensures that unhealthy instance is back healthy. And then unhealthy threshold says how many health check failures has to happen before you have to conclude that, okay, this target is unhealthy. And you basically mention the time. Okay, so 5 seconds before a health check, a failed health check, things like that. So next, we go to next. I have 2 instances running. So I'll include as pending. So I have these 2, create a target. Target group is available. Now let's go here to the load balancers. Let's refresh this. We can see it here. Let's add that. Then what? This is done. I'm going to name here to the load balancer. Yes, let's create a load balancer. All right, use the load balancer now. Okay, it's provisioning. So let's see what. See, this is the DNS name, okay, that you have to access. You have access to, and this is what you have to use to access your EC2. I mean, to send your request to. Let's copy this. Okay, all the details if we used. Still provisioning. Let's check if it's working. If not, it's not yet ready. It should come up. Okay. Okay. Meanwhile, this happens. Let's go to auto scaling group. Let's complete the part on the theory, and then we can go back to the hands-on. Okay. So what does an auto scaling group do? Auto scaling group and the application load balancer work together. Okay. So the request coming from the user goes to the load balancer. Load balancer sends it to instances that are handled within an auto scaling group. Okay. So auto scaling group basically improves the elasticity or ensures that there is elasticity within the cloud. Okay. So based on the demand or the load that's coming in from the users, it will either increase the number of instances or decrease. Okay. So what does it have? What is the goal? Basically to match, I mean, scale in or scale out, right? Horizontal scaling. We are trying to achieve horizontal scaling here. And it will always ensure that there is a minimum number of instances always running. So you'll always give the minimum number of instances that have to be running for your application. Okay, and then maximum and the desired desired number of instances as well. So if say say there are 3 instances and one of the instance becomes unhealthy, either it stops or something like that, then what the auto scaling group will do is that you have given, say, the minimum number of, say, you have said that 3 have to be running for your application. So it will ensure that even if out of 3 1 is unhealthy, it will then create a instance, EC2 instance, to balance or to provide to ensure that the minimum number of instances are always 3. So it will automatically create the instance and register it with the load balancer, like we did in using the target groups, right? So it will register it, it will add it, so that even the load balancer will also send the request to the newly created instance. Then it will, as I said, replace unhealthy instances. Now let's go to the next slide. Okay. See, now this is the ALB in the left hand side, the diagram, right? So this is the ALB. So this is your minimum size. You have said that the minimum size has to be 1. 1 instance has to be running. 2 is the desired capacity, okay? And 4 is the maximum size. It means that 4 is what would need in case there is an increase in demand, go up to 4. If there is a reduction in demand, then stay up to 2, okay? And if that becomes, keep at least 1 running. So that's what auto scaling group does. Okay. And similarly, that will be as we did, right? The user sends in the right hand side the diagram. User sends the request to the ELB. ELB uses the target group to achieve this scalability, basically, or the elasticity. Okay, before we go here, let me just check whether this is provision 1 of the it's active. Okay. See, now I'm accessing my load balancer. You see that the IP is changing. Okay, you see it's different IPs. Now, how did that happen? Because you have in the target group, you have given 2 targets, right? 2 targets, and let's go and see the IP address of these 2 targets. Let's go to the console. Let's go to instances. Let's go here to the 2 names. So you see this private addresses, right? Private IP address. For one, it is 172.31.36.107, which you can see here. And then if you go to the second one, say this one. So you see it is 172.31.35.137. So next request goes to the next instance. You see how one request is going to one instance. Yeah, one instance, and next request is going to another. So that's how it's balancing the load. It's sending it to different instances every time a request comes in. Okay. Now, okay, let's go back to the auto scaling group. Now we have understood how load balancer works. Okay, if we have 2 instances in the target group, it will keep balancing the load between the 2. Now, okay, so there are some scaling strategies available within auto scaling group. I mean, you have this desired capacity and maximum capacity that you give, right? You have some kind of scaling strategies around it. So if you say manually scaling, then you say that you'll manually scale the auto scaling group. I mean, you'll mention how many. Every time that there is an increase in demand, you'll manually go and change the size of that of the number of instances in the auto scaling group. If you don't want to do that, you want dynamic scaling to respond to the incoming change. Okay, incoming requests. If there is an increase in request or decrease in request, then based on that, if you want to change it, then you use dynamic scaling. In dynamic scaling, there are multiple sub categories. So you have simple step scaling. In that, what you do is there usually in cloud for monitoring. Okay, if your CPU say consumption is going up or down, or say your instance has stopped, something like that. If you want to kind of monitor it, then you'll use a CloudWatch alarm. Okay, so CloudWatch, well, you'll say in simple step scaling, you'll say that the CloudWatch alarm is triggered. Okay, your CPU input has gone above 70%. That is incredible amount of load on your existing instances. Then what you'll do, you'll add 2 units. So you are telling ASD that if my CPU is consumption is going above 70%, add 2 units. Similarly, if you'll say that if it's going below 30, then remove 1 unit. So there's no necessity. So what you're doing is basically you are kind of reducing even the cost part, right? Because we said that if we keep the instance running for a longer time, you are going to pay for that much. You are going to pay per use it is. So you're going to pay for that amount of hours or seconds that you have used. So basically by doing this, you are also ensuring that you have to, the pay becomes elastic, right? You're not paying more. You're only paying for the amount that you have used, and whatever is not being used, you're just getting disposing it off. So it's done automatically. Similarly, you have target tracking scaling. Here, what you'll say is that if you're always maintain my CPU or the consumption around 40%. So if so automatically the ASD, what it will do, if it is increasing, it will add. If it is decreasing, it will reduce. So it will always keep the CPU consumption of the instances around 40%. Then there is something called scheduled scaling. Scheduled scaling, say you have sale days, okay, when, or you say, suppose that in the morning between certain amount of time, or in the night between 8 to 10, there are a lot of users using your application. Then you'll say between these instances, between these timings, add more instances. Okay, so you increase the capacity based on based on a schedule. Okay, then there is predictive scaling. Okay, that this also comes up in the scaling strategies do come up in the exam, so you guys need to remember this. Predictive scaling basically is uses your machine learning to understand like what has been the pattern of users kind of accessing your application. Okay, based on that, it will derive like what is the number of instances needed, okay, in advance, and it will keep your instances available whenever there is an increase or a decrease in load. So it will automatically kind of configure that ASD to work that way. So it is basically, you're not saying when it has to happen. Using the machine learning and algorithms, it's already deciding when the pattern is going to be more or less, and then working accordingly.
So, Neetu, I think we do have a question from the audience.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Let me flash the question. So this is from Harish. Could you please tell the difference between load balancing and auto scaling?
Load balancing and auto scaling. Okay. See, load balancing, what it does is, load balancing and auto scaling work together. Load balancing is done basically to balance the load. Okay. Say if you use only one instance and your user keeps requesting, say you have now only one user. Now just assume that it's going to increase to 2 and 3, and all are keeping on talking to a single instance. Okay. Then you say you'll add 2 instances because your load has increased, your number of requests have increased. So and then all those users how are you going to tackle when this what is it, the request has to go to which instance, and suppose that if you have 2 instances and one instance has failed, then what happens? So basically, to do that, there is a load balancer in front of these EC2 instances. What it does is that it decides which EC2 instance it has to go to. Okay, the request has to go to, and randomly it will keep sending to either of the 2 instances, so that, and also you secure your EC2 instances because the user is not aware of what instances are in the background or the number of instances. The load balancer is what is in the front. Okay, so that's how the load balancer works. Now, how the auto scaling group works: after the load balancer, you'll have an auto scaling group, which will ensure that based on the number of requests that are coming in, if there is an increase in requests and there is a load coming up on your instances, say you have 2 instances, and the CPU performance is going low, then using your auto scaling group, you'll be able to add instances. Okay, so your load balancer detects whether your instance is healthy or not and sends requests to the healthy instances only. So if there is a failure, your load balancer won't send your request to that instance. But your auto scaling group will ensure that whatever instances the load balancer is sending the request to are always healthy. Whenever there is a failure, instantaneously it will spin up a new resource. Okay, so it will always ensure that the number of instances going to the request is going to are always within the kind of the minimum desired requirement that you have given. So that's how both work. They both work together. So but both have different uses, because one, what it is doing is distributing the load, distributing the number of requests that are coming in. And auto scaling, what is doing, it's increasing the elasticity. You can dynamically say how many instances are to be there, take the load. And you can also kind of automate it, saying that okay, if the for this day, if the load is high, then increase these many instances, and it will do it automatically. You don't have to manually go and create that EC2 instance. And if there is a failure, even then the auto scaling group will automatically create an instance, and it will also register it with the load balancer to ensure that the load balancer sends the request to all the instances, randomly based on the load. Yeah, I hope I've answered the question. If you have some questions, you can ask in further on this. Sanchit, anything?
No, I think that's the only question we have. Thank you.
Okay, all right, no problem. Okay, let's go to the auto scaling group. So we saw how load balancers work. I showed you that the load balancer is, sorry, let me do that again. Okay, it's automatically sending to 2 instances. Okay, each request it's distributing between the 2. Now let's see how the auto scaling group is going to help you in this. Okay, now let's go and create a auto scaling group. Uh-oh. Okay, let me. All right, just a second. Put in my MFA. Where is it? Okay. Okay, auto scaling. Let's go here. Now let's put back just once. I saw put back. So auto scaling group, as I shown in my diagram as well, in the diagram as well. So it has a minimum size, it has a desired capacity and a maximum size. So it will reduce and add, and this way you will also the cost that you have to incur. Let's go to auto group creation. Okay. We could create a limit. Okay, so either I can use here my it's taking some time. Okay, fine. Either I can use the AMI that I created using the image that is owned by me, or I can either use I can use the AWS managed one. Let me just show using that, or I can also use my AMI that I've created using the image builder. Okay, so this is free tier eligible. So ensure that you are within the free tier when you try this. Okay. Don't include in launch template. T2 micro, I select T2 micro because it is free tier eligible. Why we are giving this is basically, as I told you guys, that if the instance becomes unhealthy, it has to spin up a new instance, right? So it has to stay within, if we have to stay within the free tier eligible, so better to give these instance types, okay, so that even the instances which are spun up are also of T2 micro only. Okay, don't not include it, that's fine. Create launch template. Security group. Let me go with the bootcamp security group. So this will be auto applied to the new instance getting created. All right. Anything else? Subnet? No. No. Okay. Let me add. Fine. Create a launch template. This is created. Let's go back and get this launch template here. Bootcamp template. Okay. Next. I'll select my default VPC is already selected. I'll select all the availability zones so that I ensure that it's highly available. And then go to next. Okay, attach it to an existing load balancer. So choose from first load balancer. Right. So I have said that it has to attach, this auto scaling group will get attached to an existing load balancer. And that load balancer is using, my load balancer is the bootcamp ALB, if you see, okay, which we already saw here. Sorry for that. My load balancer, I'll just show you guys again. So if you see the bootcamp ALB, so that is using this target. You have healthy health check. Let's say that health check. Target tracking policy. Okay, that is a, if you don't apply any policy, then it will work in the manual way. So let's go to the target tracking policy and say that.
Neetu, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think your internet
Yeah.
speed is fluctuating, so you got just freeze for like
Okay.
last minute or so.
Right. Okay.
You can disable your video. I think you can disable your video and then try. Maybe that helps.
All right. Yeah, that would, I think. Good. Okay, thanks. Yeah. Now is it fine?
Yeah, that's correct. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Target tracking scaling. I say average CPU utilization. If target value is around 70. It work out. Okay, so I've done this. I have created an ASC. I have attached it to availability zones. I've given the template. I've given the load balancer. Maximum capacity would be 4. Desired capacity is 2. Okay. So now, okay. You see that I had given the maximum to be 4, right? So now there are 4 running. Let me suppose that now let me go back and check with my ALB. Okay, it's not yet updated, I think. Let's check here again. Let's go to the load balancer and check how many targets it has. Listeners. Okay. Just a second, guys. Just a second. Wanted an output to come out of that. Just a minute. Let me. Just check my target groups again. It has everything running or not. Targets. Okay, it's nothing. Do one thing. Let me just recreate a ASD. Just give me a second. Let me create this ASD again. Something going wrong with it. Okay. Meanwhile, we create this. I'll create it. Let's go to the quiz so that we can give some time also to the quiz part. Okay. So Sanchit, like I'll just read out the quiz and let's the audience answer it. Okay. I'll keep it open. I mean,
Sure, I'll have a note
fine.
of it.
Yeah, sure. So it's the first question is which of the following statements is incorrect regarding auto scaling groups? It replaces unhealthy instances. They are cost effective by running at optimal capacity. Auto registers new instances to the load balancer. Automatically change the EC2 instance types. As the first one, which AWS offered load balancer should you use to handle hundreds of thousands of connections with low latency? Whether it is application load balancer, network load balancer, elastic load balancer. What is the main purpose of high availability in the cloud? Increase scalability, application thriving even in case of a disaster, access on computers and smartphones, handle greater loads by launching EC2 instances based on demand. So I want the audience to answer this and be sure that the people who win will get some good swags and goodies from us. So yeah.
So, audience, you can post your answer in the chat as
Sure.
1, 2, and 3 in the same line. There is no link to answer. You can post it on the chat, and at the end, we will consolidate all the responses from different forum. So, and then we will announce the winners offline on our Slack channel.
Yeah.
This is first come first serve. So, guys, please just go through all the 3 questions, pick up the answer, and please post on the chat.
Meanwhile, I'll just check what's happening to my ESD.
Sure.
Taking some time. Okay.
Okay, so we have the first answer from Ramakrishna. Anyone else?
Okay. Guys, you need to hurry up in answering.
Yeah.
Okay, so last episode as well, we had 2 quizzes. So we'll consolidate everything, and whoever answers first, I mean, whichever quiz, so that accordingly we'll also announce the winner and also be giving out some good swag for them.
3 questions, 4 options. Please select the one and please post the answer in the chat.
Okay, just go back, check
Yeah,
here.
I think last 1 minute to go and then we will close the quiz.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll just keep this open and then I'll go back to the hands-on. Keep this open for 1 minute.
Last 30 seconds. Cool. I think Neetu, we can go ahead. So we have one
All right.
Krishna answering the questions. So what we'll do is
Okay.
we have been streaming this video across 3 different channels. We have Usha also answering the questions. So we have 2 person. We will consolidate all the answers from different folks, and offline we will have a look. And by tomorrow we will announce the winners in our Slack workspace. So please do join our Slack workspace if you are not part of it. With that, we'll continue with the session. Neetu, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay, back again. Okay. Too many places open. Okay. Again. This time I'm not given any scaling policy, just to ensure it's working fine. Because if the desired capacity goes down, ultimately it will add. But I'm not sure whether it was happening due to the scaling policy. Let me just remove it and check once. Okay. So if we see the instances now, okay, it has already started one more instance. We see here. Funding. The load balancer here. They must have already, because I've given the maximum capacity to 3. So that's why it is also spinning up one more instance. So here to the listeners, the target. Okay. So why it's failing? One of 4 instances. Now suppose that one of this, right? Now if I go to my bootcamp, there will be I want 4 instances. Because other 2 are rendered. Sorry. Let's just clear headlights. Because here it shows that it's 6.
Neetu, should we look into the demo offline record and then upload it again?
Just a second. Sorry, could you come again?
I was thinking if you're facing some issue, some technical challenge, so would be
Yeah.
fine if we just move on with the rest of the content and record the demo offline and then upload on the manually upload it for the participants.
All right, we can do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm actually after the quiz, we had reached the end of the session.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'll just look into what's happening here, okay, and then I'll update the content on that. Meanwhile, any questions apart from what has already been asked? Sanjit, anything that's coming up?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen. Just give me 1 sec.
Yeah, sure.
I'll bring up the next sets of announcements for us.
Sure. I'll
So,
stop sharing that.
sure. Okay, thank you. So yeah, as I think Vivek mentioned in the last session, we are back and we are giving a chance to win a certification voucher up to 50%. And this is a task one, which is create AWS account and configure IAM role. The detail link and the submission I'll post on the chat, as well as the last date for submission is 31st March, end of the day. Neetu, do you want to highlight a couple of things about the rules and the regulation part of it?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay. What we wanted to do is that first two sessions that we went through, right? We had created a problem statement out of that. So what we want you guys to do is kind of follow the steps, complete the problem statement. Okay, go if create a AWS account if you don't have it already, and then go on to the problem statement. Try to configure IAM the way we have mentioned it. Okay, and then you guys have to take the screenshot of the I mean the each step that you have done and the end result, so that we are sure that what you guys have done is correct and what is the end result of it. So put it in a document or something and you can share it with us. Okay, on a Slack channel, like maybe. Okay, that would be that way we can kind of understand what is the end result and how you have achieved it. Okay, so yeah, that's around the problem statement. Yeah, Sanjit, you want to go ahead with the rest of the details?
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much. And yes, as I mentioned, the link we have given in the description. And again, I'll recall the last date is March 31st, end of the day. So please hurry up and finish the task and get a chance to win the certification voucher up to 50%. Next, let me quickly talk about why and how you should join the AWS community, right? So AWS community is like a networking which helps you to connect with AWS experts. It's a mode and medium of interacting and have built a strong network of community members. It also helps you to access the specific AWS content and event updates, as well as gives swags, vouchers, and goodies as per allocated by AWS User Group India. And the best part, you also get the good amount of knowledge and learning from your peers, certification, and an opportunity to job, as well as hiring opportunities. So please, if you are interested, please do join us in the Slack channel. The link is flashing in our particular video, as well as I'll post it in the chat description. It's flashing. It's bit.ly/join AWS MDU. Please join us today in the Slack channel if you're not already part of it. And quickly giving introduction about or what is exactly AWS User Group Madurai and what's about the interesting stuff about this community. So as I talk about networking and learn, so you get a chance to learn the best practices, the different stuff about AWS. You also get different job hiring and certification. We also have different participants who's talking about or posting different talks, blogs, videos, reels, and more. So they provide a different form and medium to learn the AWS content in an interesting way. As well as we have Zero to Hero, which all experts of all levels are welcome. So if you are pretty new to AWS or are in experts, we welcome all different kinds of participants. We are open to all languages, whether you're English, Tamil, or any other language. We are open and welcome to that. And last is the contest and giveaway. So we have different offline events and participations, and the winners do get swags, vouchers, etc., based on the contest and the kind of giveaway it is. So please do join us. And as I mentioned, the link is flashing on the screen. This is the link what we have, bit.ly join us AWS MDU. And we are also part of different other networking social media platform, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Stitch, as well as YouTube, right? Search for AWS User Group Madurai. But our main platform is AWS Slack Workspace, which the link is flashing in the currently on the screen. So please do join us and get maximum learning from different experts, different announcement what we have on the group. And yeah, that's all what we have from today's session. Thank you for joining and being a wonderful participant. And if you have any questions, please post in the comment section of the video. We will answer it offline. And please do join our Slack channel. That's all what we have for today.
Yeah, Sanjit, just can I interrupt?
Sure.
Sorry,
Yes,
sorry for interrupting.
yes,
Yeah,
please go
thank
ahead.
you everyone for being patient and for giving us time in this. I mean, in the afternoon, evening hours of your weekend. So thank you for that. And the one thing that is left with the ASD, I'll record it offline and put it on the channel. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Neetu. And yes, we'll have wonderful series of sessions lined up. So the next session is on 29th, which will be around database and analytics. So please do join us. We will have more announcement coming up soon on Slack as well as other social media platforms. So please do subscribe us and please participate actively. Thank you.